As the War of the Ring thundered toward its climax, a single question gripped the fate of Middle-earth. Did the Dark Lord, Sauron, truly believe that Aragorn had claimed the One Ring as he marched to the Black Gate? This question unveils not only the brilliant deception of the Free Peoples, but also the fatal flaw of Mordor's master. With the reforged blade of his ancestors in hand, Aragorn, heir of Isildur, had rallied the armies of Gondor and Rohan to victory. Yet rather than holding his ground, he turned to the east, leading his forces in a fearless march to Mordor's very threshold. Such a move was bold, nearly unthinkable, and to Sauron's mind, only one answer made sense. Aragorn wielded the One Ring, wielding its terrible power to challenge him at last. Yet in this belief lay Sauron's undoing, for he could not imagine that anyone would dare destroy the ring. Blinded by this fatal arrogance, he overlooked the true danger lurking at the heart of his own land. And so, in this final gambit, the Free Peoples would turn the Dark Lord's assumptions into the instrument of his ruin. To understand why Sauron was convinced Aragorn possessed the One Ring, we need to examine his own view of the ring and the nature of its power. For him, the One Ring was the ultimate tool for domination, a source of unmatched influence and authority. He forged it to amplify his power, not only to control his own forces, but also to corrupt and manipulate others. The ring was an extension of his own malice, binding to him all who fell under its influence. Sauron's understanding of the ring was rooted in a simple but absolute belief. Anyone who possessed it would be unable to resist using it. This was the very reason he created the ring, pouring much of his own power into it so that it would exert a magnetic pull on others, drawing them toward dominance and subjugation. As Gandalf explains in The Two Towers, he is in great fear, not knowing what mighty one may suddenly appear, wielding the ring, and assailing him with war, seeking to cast him down and take his place. That we should wish to cast him down and have no one in his place is not a thought that occurs to his mind. For Sauron, the concept of destroying the ring was beyond imagination. As he saw it, power was meant to be wielded, not discarded. He viewed others as being just as susceptible to corruption as he was, incapable of resisting the allure of absolute power. Thus, he assumed that whoever held the ring would naturally use it to rise against him, not reject it. He cannot comprehend what lies beyond his grasp, especially the idea that anyone would choose not to use it, let alone destroy it, Gandalf observes. This blind spot was critical. It led Sauron to misinterpret the actions of the Free Peoples as a quest for power rather than a mission of self-sacrifice. One event in particular deepened Sauron's conviction that Aragorn possessed the ring. After the fall of Isengard, Aragorn took a bold step, one that was both a declaration and a calculated act of misdirection. In the Stone of Orthanc, the Palantír that once belonged to Saruman, Aragorn showed himself to Sauron. With the reforged sword Andúril in hand, he declared his lineage as the heir of Elendil, the very line of kings who had once defied him. By choosing to reveal himself in this way, Aragorn seized control of the Palantír, challenging him and making his presence unmistakably known. In The Return of the King, Aragorn later reflects on this encounter.
I deemed that the time was ripe and that the stone had come to me for just such a purpose. Too seldom has Sauron been challenged since he returned to his tower.
This display of strength was precisely the kind of move Sauron would associate with a new Ring Lord, a powerful, self-assured leader bolstered by the ring's influence. Aragorn's actions seemed to confirm Sauron's deepest fears. The heir of Isildur had claimed the ring, seized the ancient power that once opposed him, and now dared to turn its might against him. Sauron's paranoia only intensified when he saw Aragorn's next steps. After claiming victory at Pelennor Fields, Aragorn led his army straight to the Black Gate. This bold advance looked like a march of conquest, driven by the newfound arrogance that the ring was known to inspire. He assumed that the ring's corrupting influence had made Aragorn overconfident, fueling a desire for domination that would bring him and the ring directly to Mordor. Aragorn's actions, along with Sauron's flawed understanding of the Free People's intentions, laid the groundwork for his monumental error in judgment. He saw in Aragorn what he believed he would see in any bearer of the ring: ambition, pride, and a hunger for conquest, traits that in reality could not have been further from Aragorn's true character. The shocking defeat of Sauron's forces at the Battle of Pelennor Fields intensified his suspicion of Aragorn. He lost his greatest captain, the Witch King of Angmar, to a mortal in this battle. More unsettling, the Dark Lord heard accounts of Aragorn leading an army of the dead, which struck terror into his troops and secured the battlefield for Gondor. This rumor, combined with Sauron's limited knowledge of the nature of the dead men of Dunharrow, made him assume that Aragorn had used the One Ring to control spirits. To the Dark Lord, only someone wielding immense power, likely the ring itself, could command such an army of wraiths. Sauron's perspective was reinforced by his view that no one, especially someone seeking power, would turn down the chance to use the ring's corruptive force. Thus, Aragorn's actions at Pelennor became, in his mind, the clearest sign yet that the heir of Elendil had claimed the ring for himself. His eye is now straining towards us, blind almost to all else that is moving, Gandalf says, underscoring Sauron's narrowing focus on the new threat. Aragorn's next move, to lead a small, outnumbered force to the Black Gate, was Sauron's tipping point. This audacious march seemed so reckless to him that he could only interpret it as the arrogance of a new ringlord. Sauron's fixation grew as he saw Aragorn's apparent confidence in facing Mordor's full strength, an act that appeared to confirm Aragorn's belief in his own invincibility under the ring. As Gandalf counseled the leaders of the Free Peoples, "We must make ourselves the bait, though his jaws should close on us." Aragorn's display of courage and confidence was a deliberate ploy, designed to distract Sauron from the true ring-bearer by making him believe Aragorn was readying for conquest. This misdirection proved successful. Sauron, convinced that the ring had led Aragorn to march upon him, focused all his attention and forces on this supposed threat, leaving Frodo and Sam unobserved as they made their perilous journey into Mordor. Sauron's assumption that Aragorn had the ring was strengthened by the capture of Frodo in Mordor. When he was taken, the orcs stripped him of his possessions, including a valuable mithril shirt. This rare armor, which only a wealthy or powerful individual would wear, was sent to him as proof of the capture. The fact that he was in Mordor and carrying such a valuable item should have raised Sauron's suspicions about his mission. Instead, he dismissed him as a spy. Since he was captured without the ring, Sauron concluded that the ring must have been passed on. From his perspective, it was only logical that the ring was now in the hands of a more powerful figure, likely Aragorn, while Frodo was just a pawn sent to gather information. As Gandalf explains, he will think that in such rashness he sees the pride of the new ringlord. For Sauron, Frodo's presence in Mordor didn't signify an attempt to destroy the ring, but rather a move in a larger game orchestrated by a ring-wielding Aragorn. Hobbits were a mystery to him, and he could not conceive that they would play a leading role in any serious mission. In his view, a small and unassuming people like the Hobbits could never be entrusted with something as powerful as the ring, let alone handle it responsibly. This made it easier for Sauron to overlook Frodo's true purpose in Mordor. For him, his capture seemed like a minor setback for the Fellowship, but not part of the main plan. In his mind, hobbits might serve as scouts or spies, but the ring would be in the hands of a significant power. Even though he knew that hobbits had been involved since the ring was found in the Shire, he assumed they were being used by stronger leaders like Aragorn or Gandalf. His inability to understand their resilience and simplicity led him to underestimate their importance and ignore the signs that Frodo was, in fact, the true ring-bearer. Gandalf comments on Sauron's arrogance, saying, "The thought that anyone would seek to destroy the ring has not yet entered into his darkest dreams." Sauron's worldview was so deeply rooted in power and domination that he overlooked the possibility of a simpler, self-sacrificial plan to end his rule. The Palantír, a powerful seeing stone, became a tool of misdirection for the Free Peoples. When Pippin and later Aragorn looked into the Orthanc stone, Sauron glimpsed their movements, which deepened his conviction that Aragorn's rise in strength was linked to the ring. Each time he saw them through the Palantír, the Dark Lord's suspicions about Aragorn were reinforced. He interpreted these visions as the preparations of a new ring lord, plotting to consolidate power against him. Gandalf, knowing Sauron's nature, devised a plan that leveraged the Dark Lord's obsession with power. Realizing that he would perceive any show of strength as a challenge to his rule, Gandalf proposed that the Free Peoples create a diversion by presenting Aragorn as a rival ring lord. This feint would divert Sauron's attention from the true mission, Frodo's journey to destroy the ring. With great courage, Aragorn and the leaders of the West decided to march their forces to the Black Gate, understanding that their role was not to defeat Sauron in open battle, but to buy time for the ring-bearer. They knew that the mere presence of an army approaching Mordor's gate would draw his attention and trigger his fears of a new power rising against him. Sauron's perception of power was rooted in domination and control, blinding him to the values guiding the Free Peoples: selflessness and sacrifice. He was convinced that no one would willingly destroy the ring, as it promised the very power he craved. Thus, he easily believed that Aragorn, as the heir of Elendil and now leader of Gondor, would claim the ring for himself. By exploiting his inability to imagine a selfless quest, the Free Peoples created the illusion of an inevitable confrontation at the Black Gate. The Dark Lord fixated on Aragorn as a threat, while underestimating the significance of Frodo's presence in Mordor. This misdirection allowed him to continue undetected, shielded by Sauron's own assumptions. When Aragorn's army reached the Black Gate, Sauron believed his suspicions were confirmed. To him, this bold approach, despite the Free People's smaller numbers, was evidence of the ring's corruptive influence, an overconfidence typical of a new ring lord. Eager to crush this perceived threat, he committed his forces fully to the defense of Mordor's gate, leaving Mount Doom vulnerable. This tactical error marked his final misjudgment. Fixated on confronting Aragorn, he missed the real danger. The two hobbits slipping through his defenses, the Free People's ruse worked perfectly, drawing his attention to the Black Gate and giving Frodo and Sam the chance to fulfill their mission, leading to his ultimate downfall. At the moment when Sauron believed he was on the brink of triumph, his plans unraveled in the most unexpected way. Frodo and Sam, undetected and weary from their journey, finally reached Mount Doom. But when Frodo stood over the fiery chasm, he was overcome by the ring's influence and claimed it for himself, putting it on and unintentionally revealing its location to Sauron. In this moment, the Dark Lord perspective shifted from one of confidence to sheer panic. The full horror dawned on him. The ring had been right under his nose, and Frodo, a mere hobbit, was the true ring-bearer. This realization shattered the deceptive veil he had relied upon, revealing how thoroughly he had been misled by his own arrogance and assumptions. In a final, desperate attempt to salvage his reign, Sauron sent his forces hurtling toward Mount Doom. His attention turned entirely to stopping Frodo, but it was too late. As the ring's power surged through him, Gollum appeared and in a frenzied struggle seized the ring. Gollum's fall into the fires of Mount Doom brought about the ring's destruction, breaking his power entirely. In his last moments, Sauron faced the devastating consequences of his own misjudgment. The arrogance that had blinded him to the possibility of self-sacrifice had led directly to his defeat. The destruction of the ring tore his spirit from the physical realm, ending his rule and leaving his armies leaderless. In the end, Sauron's downfall was not wrought by strength or might, but by his inability to grasp the courage and sacrifice of those he dismissed. Convinced that only power could bring victory, he fixated on Aragorn as a rival ringlord, leaving his true threat, two hobbits, unseen. As the One Ring fell into the fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord's spirit was shattered and his age of shadow ended. Sauron's blindness to selflessness and hope had become his ruin, proving that even the greatest powers can be undone by the simplest virtues. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.